Hello and welcome again to my channel. My name is Evans, a full stack web, desktop and mobile application developer. So on my channel, I teach web application development with React front end and Python and Django for the backend and API. I also have a Git and GitHub tutorial playlist. I have a playlist for core Python programming and also a playlist for utility lessons. That's not all. I have the last playlist, which is full stack web application development using Python and Django for the back end and using HTML, CSS, JavaScript and Bootstrap for the front end. So for today's lesson, this is what we're gonna be focusing on, this playlist. Now, on our last lesson on this playlist, building a web application that has the functionalities of Airbnb, Booking.com and Uber. So we were able to save our driver registration details from our back end, and this is the code that we use in saving the information from the front end to the back end. And in previous lessons, we've also saved the vendor registration details, and this is also the code. So when the user goes to the HTML template, they see the form, they put in their information, it validates everything, and then it saves to the database. Now, I'm just gonna spin up my server so that we'll see what we've done so far. So the first thing I'm gonna do is to come to these three dots, and then I'm gonna click on terminal, and then click on new terminal. Now I'm gonna type python manage.py run server. I want to run it on a different port because I think my port 8080 is occupied. So I'm gonna just state 8082. Now, before I run my server, today's lecture, we're gonna retrieve the information that have been saved inside the database to our front end. That's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna use Python and Django to write the backend logic that is gonna retrieve information, because all this while we've just been saving from the front end to the back end, but now we're gonna retrieve some of those registered information from the back end and display them on the front end. That is the first thing that we're gonna do. Then on our front end, I'm gonna show you how to use Bootstrap, to create a simple table, and also HTML, for your front end structure, and then display the outputs on the front end using Django templating engine. Now, Django is a full stack web development framework that you can use for both back end and to some extent front end. So we're gonna use the Django templating engine to display the information on our front end, but we're gonna use Bootstrap to create a table and also HTML. Now, this design that we're gonna do is not gonna be beautiful, I don't want to start going into deep HTML and CSS and JavaScript, for for front-end development, because I don't want to get you confused. I want you to get used to the back-end logic first before we go deep dive into front-end development. So for today, we're just gonna create a basic HTML template to retrieve the information from our backend to our front end. So now I have typed python manage.py run server. I'm gonna press enter. So now my server is up and running. So I'm just gonna click on this link, or I copy this link and paste on my web browser. I'm gonna paste it. Yeah, so this is what we've done so far. So we've not gone into HTML and CSS to design our front end, I'm just focusing on the backend, and that's why our page is like this. But once we finish building the application, we're gonna go into the front end aspects and make our front end beautiful and interactive. So on this link, you can use to create your account as a customer. Then vendors can also create the account. These vendors are hotel owners, restaurant owners, house owners that wants to list their rooms on our platform, because we're trying to build an application that has a function of Airbnb. And Airbnb is a booking site where you can use to book for accommodation or for rooms. So yeah, individuals and hotels can list their rooms or their hotels, and then these users that have registered through this link can use it to book a room. And then on this link, drivers can also register on our platform, and then users as well can also book a ride, just like the way it's done on Uber. Now, if I click on this link here, register your vendor account here, it's gonna show me this form where I can register my account. After you register your account, the next phase of what we're gonna do is to manage the profile, where they're gonna upload their cover picture, their menu, or their rooms, or whatever. So yeah, this is it. Now I'm gonna go to my, we're gonna display we're gonna fetch the record, from the back end to our front end, and then we're gonna start with vendor first. So now if I go to my vendor, I go to this is my vendor app, and I go to views.py, and then you're gonna see the function that we used in saving the information. And on this function, we use 3 forms: user register form, profile form, and vendor form. These 3 forms, they are all coming from 3 different models. Now, what I want to do is I want to create an admin area where the admin of the platform can use in viewing all the vendors that are registered on the platform, all the drivers on the platform, and all the users on the platform. So the admin should also have power to delete a vendor at will, approve or disapprove a vendor, lock an account, modify any record that they want, just the way it's done on the Django admin panel. So I'm gonna go to the Django admin panel and show you what I'm trying to do. So I'll go back to my web browser, and then in here I'm just gonna type admin. So now my admin panel has opened. If I put my email and I put my password and I click on login, so this is gonna open the admin panel. But as you know, this admin panel comes by default with Django. So when you install Django and you create an app, you start your application, you can access the admin panel by coming to your URL or your IP address and you type admin. So this is being done for you by Django, but then I want to teach you how to achieve this as well, whereby you can use to see all the vendors, all the users, and all the drivers, Yeah, so in here, look, you can add user, you can add driver, you can add vendor. So I want to teach you exactly how to do this, because this is being done for you. If you don't learn how to do this, then you won't have full knowledge of software development. So this is my goal. Now, to do that, we can do it in any of this app, maybe vendor app or driver app or authentication app, or wherever we want to do it. But the best place to do it is to create a new app, and maybe we call it admin area. Now, the vendors, the users, and the drivers, they can also update their profile, modify their record, view their record, and all the rest. But I also want to create an admin area where the administrator can do all of that. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna create an app. Now you need to stop your server first. So come to your terminal and then you press Ctrl and C. Once you press Ctrl and C, it stops the server from running before you can do anything. And then you type Python manage.py starts app, and then you give it a name of app. So I'm gonna call this admin area. This is what we did to create the vendor app, to create our driver app, and to create our registration app. Now the essence of creating new app is to segment your code. So any code that has to do with the vendor will go to vendor app. Any code that has to do with authentication is gonna go to authentication app, and users as well. It's not as if we can't put all the codes in any of the app. We can definitely do that, put all our code in any of the app, but it's not gonna be good for management. So if you want to manage your application better, you need to segment your apps, so that you know that okay, every code that is here is for vendor, every code that is here is for authentication, stuff like that. And that's why we are creating a new app, and then we're calling it admin area, and then we just press enter. It's gonna create the app for us. Now our app has been created. This is it, admin area. This is it. So after you create your app, the first thing you need to do, if you expand it, you see different files and folders, just like it did when we create our authentication app, our driver app, and our vendor app. So the first thing that you need to do after you create your app is to go to your main project folder. Our main project folder here is book and write. This one, book and write. So you click to expand it, and then you go to your settings.py, and then you go to the installed app section, and then press enter here. On the last one, open a quote, and then you type the name of your app, admin area. Now you register your app, and then you put a comma at the end, and then go to file, go to save all. Now the next thing you need to do is to create a URL for your admin area. Now if you go here, you're gonna see that we don't have any URL, so you need to create a urls.py file, and then also register your url.py file on your main project level URLs. Now what you have to do is to make it easier or faster, you can simply copy a URL that you've already created before. We've already created a URL for authentication, we've created URL for vendor, we've created URL for driver and all the rest. So once you do certain action, you don't need to repeat yourself again. You can just simply come to your driver, for example, and then you just copy the urls.py, just copy it. If you don't want to copy it, alternatively you can right click on your admin area, your app name, and then you click on new file, and then you say urls.py. Now this is not the first video in this tutorial series. We already have 14 videos in this tutorial series, and so if you're an absolute beginner, I suggest that you go back and watch the previous 14 videos so that you can understand what we're doing. Otherwise you're gonna be lost. But if you're not a beginner and you already have experience with Django, then you can simply follow along and pick what you want to learn. So now I've created urls.py. Yeah, and once you create it, urls.py is empty. Like I said, you don't need to start typing everything from afresh, like we did with the other one. You can simply go to your driver app URL, this one, go to driver app URL, and then you just simply copy everything to make everything faster. Control C, and then you go to your admin area, you go to urls.py, and then you paste it. Now if my video is too fast for you, you can slow it down, you can pause, rewind, rewatch, and slow down the speed. And if it's too slow for you as well, you can also fast forward. Now You want to leave this from Django.urls import paths, and you also want to leave this from .import views. We have views.py, so we are importing views.py. You want to leave that. Now urls pattern equals paths, driver reg, views.driver reg, name equals driver reg. We don't have any function called driver reg. So yeah, and this is not gonna be driver reg. I'm gonna call it something else. So I'm gonna say view all vendors. I'm gonna separate it with an underscore, view all underscore vendors. I love giving the name of my URL a name that reflects what I'm trying to do. So simply I'm gonna just copy this and then paste it in here, and then copy this and paste it in here. This name can be different from this name, and then yeah, this name is the name of the function. So you need to, whatever you say views dot view, whatever you say your views dot view all vendors, you need to create this function. So this function name can be anything, but I decided just to make it view all function, and then the name I decided to call it view all vendors as well. You can call this whatever you want as well. It can be different from this, it can be different from this. This is just the parts. Maybe when you go to view all vendors, it takes you to this function, and this is the name that you need to reference, you know, on your front end when you want to use this URL. So the three of them can be absolutely different, but this one has to be the name of your function that you are creating. So I'm just gonna copy this, and then now I'll go to my views.py, and then I need to create that function. So I'm gonna say def, and then you give a space, you paste it, and then you open parentheses, and then you type request, and then you put semicolon, you press enter, and then you type return render parentheses, and then you type request again, you put comma, and then in a quote you state the directory where your template is, where you want to view all the records. So I'm gonna put it inside a folder, and I'll call it admin area / view all rec.html. It means I need to create these parts. So this is a folder. So I'm saying this function should be displayed inside a template called viewallrec.html, and this viewallrec.html is inside a folder called admin area. So now you need to go to your template section. This is what we've been doing, you know, for driver, for users, and for vendor. So you need to go to your let me minimize all this so this section will display better. Now you go to your templates. When you go to your template, you create a folder called admin area. So I'm gonna right click here, and then I'm gonna say new folder. I'm gonna paste it admin area. Now inside admin area, you create a file called viewallrec.html. I'll copy it, go to admin area and right click, and then I say new file and viewallrec.html. So yeah, I have created it. So this function, how to define a function, is very simple. You say define the name of your function, view all vendors. That's what I decide to call my function. And then I say request. Now this request can be anything, whatever you want. You can call it ever if you want, but if you make it ever, then here has to be ever as well. Do you understand? Now I'm just gonna go with normal convention, Control Z. I'm just gonna call it request. Sometimes we love saying rec, and then you also make here rec, you know. So yeah, let me just leave it like this, and then admin area, this is a folder, and this is, you know, a file inside the folder called admin area. So this is how to define your function. Now once you define this function, in here in this urls.py, whatever your function name is whatever you have to, that is what you need to put in here, views.view all vendors. So ideally you create your function first before you create your URL. You can also create your URL first, give it a name, give it views.all whatever you want, and then you create your function with this. Now if this can be different, this one can be view mine or whatever, and this can be ever yours or whatever you want, but this has to be the name of the function that you created. So I'm just gonna revert back to what it is. Now once you do this file, you've created the basic structure of your function. You've also created the URL for it. The next thing that you need to do, so you don't forget, is to go to your main project level folder. So I'm gonna collapse this first, and my main project level folder is book and ride, and then you go to the urls.py inside your main project level folder, click on urls.py, and then you add the URL for your admin area, just where we've done for our vendor. This is our vendor app that we created, vendor.url. This is our authentication app that we created, and we are adding all the URLs inside our main project URL. So now you need to say parts, open parentheses, open quotes, and then you give it a name. I'm just gonna call it vendor area, and then put a forward slash, and then put a comma, and then you say include bracket open and close, and then parentheses, and you say admin area dot urls. Now this admin area this must be the name of your app. Admin area, this is the name of our app driver. So if the name of your app is Evans app, then it has to be Evans app, but this can be anything at all you want. This doesn't have to be vendor area, it can be anything. It's just a URL. So when you go to, whenever the user type on the URL, on this URL, for example, when the user type this is the default URL. So if the user type a forward slash and admin area, it will now go into this admin area URL and search for all the URLs that you've configured and open the particular page. So if this is ever area, for example, it means when the user wants to view the URLs or the pages inside admin area.url, they need to type in ever area. Here now it has to be ever area. That's it. So now I have registered. So I'm just gonna, I love making everything simple, so I'm just gonna call it the same name. Yeah, this is it. I've registered my URLs for my admin area, and then go to file and go to save all. Now the next thing that we need to focus on is our function in our admin area views. Now I'll come back to admin area app and go back to the urls.py. Now you see we said views.all vendors. This is the name of the function, and we are able to access this function because we said from dot import views. If you don't do this, I'm gonna comment it out. If you don't do this, then there is gonna be an error. It can't access the views, and we are using from dot because both views and urls.py, they are inside admin area folder, and that's why we use dots. So I'm just gonna say Ctrl Z, and then the error is gone now. So let me just save my changes now. No, it's already saved. Now we need to focus on the function, our views.py. Now to retrieve all the registered vendors on our application is very simple. What you need to do, come inside this function, press enter. I'm giving an extra space for readability. Now you define a variable. I'm just gonna call my variable all vendor, and then you say equals to vendor, hold on, not yet. Now our vendor details are saved inside our vendor model, and our vendor model is inside our vendor app. This is our vendor app. Now, even if you define the model in here, you can access it wherever you want if you import it. So I'll go to my vendor app, go to my models.py, and then you can see this is vendor registration. So this is it, vendor registration model, which holds the user. User is a foreign key. Using this user model and user profile as well is also a foreign key using this user profile model. So this is the vendor model that holds the vendor registration details. So now we need to import this model. So what you need to do, you go to your admin area, because we want to use it inside this admin area, and then you go to the views. Before you start writing your code, you import the model. Now you type from, you're not gonna say dot again. Now you're gonna say from vendor dot models. Vendor, this is the vendor dot models, because the model is inside this file called models.py. From vendor.models space import vendor registration. Now we've imported this model, and so we can use it now. Now to view all the records, or to retrieve all the records inside this vendor registration, you need to come to this function like I said earlier, and then you define a variable name. So I'm gonna call my variable name maybe the vendors or whatever you want to call it, and you say equals to, you say vendor registration dot objects dot all, because we want to fetch all the information inside this vendor model. Now this is Django ORM system. So ORM stands for Objects Relational Mapping. It's a system whereby you don't need to type raw SQL code. We are querying this vendor registration table without using SQL. We are using the Django ORM system to query all the vendors inside this vendor registration model. So now, assuming we are using SQL, it's gonna be I'm gonna say the vendors with underscore SQL, for example, equals, if it's raw SQL, I'm just gonna say select all from this vendor registration. So this ORM is the equivalent of this SQL statement. So we're not using SQL, but maybe as we progress in the lectures, I'm gonna show you how to use SQL to query your database, because the downside of ORM is you don't have to use SQL statement, and SQL is widely used with different programming language and all the rest. So hence you're not using SQL, then it doesn't improve your SQL skills. So what I'm going to do, despite the fact that Django uses ORM, it also allows us to use direct SQL queries. So in some of the lectures, we're gonna work with direct SQL syntax, so it can reinforce your knowledge in SQL. And this is not peculiar to only Django. In Flask and Fast API, which are also frameworks in Python, they use SQL alchemy, where you don't need to write direct SQL queries, but you use the SQL alchemy, to retrieve and interact with your database. But like I said, as we progress, we're gonna use SQL in some of the section, and so you're gonna be more versatile. So yeah, this is it. Now this the vendors, this is a variable name equals vendor registration.objects.all. So I've retrieved all the vendors that are registered on the system with this single line of code. Now this will fetch all vendors in the system. However, if I want to filter out only some particular vendor, maybe only vendors that have been approved, then this is what we're gonna do. So I'm just gonna give it a different variable name now. The vendors underscore approved equals, you say vendor registration dot objects dot filter, and then you open parentheses and you say is approved equals true. So now you are filtering out only vendors that are approved. Now I'll show you. This is approved is coming from the vendor model. Now if you go to my this vendor registration model, go to the vendor app, and then you go to the models.py, and then you're gonna see there's a field called is approved. This is it, is approved. It's Boolean field, that is true or false. Like I told you, after the vendor registers on the system, the admin will be able to view their registration details and the documents that they've uploaded, and either approve the vendor or disapprove the vendor. So this is approved. It is approved. You need to copy it, and then you need to go back to this admin area, and you go to your views.py, and then you paste it here. It has to be that name of that field name. So you say is approved equals true. This, now you filtered out only vendors that are approved. You can filter it however you want. So I'm gonna put a comment on this code, and then I'm gonna put a comment so you can remember. Once you put a comment on it, it means this code is gonna be inactive. It's not gonna work again. So you can also use comments to document your code. For example, in here, when you type this, you can put a comment and say this is how to display all blah blah blah, maybe vendors from backend. This is how to fetch all vendors. This is how to fetch all vendors. So when you put a comment after your code, you can use it for documentation, and so you remember what the line of code does. But when you put it at the front, it means you are commenting it out. You don't want it to execute at all. Now so I'm taking off this comment. You can leave yours if you want, but I'm gonna leave this so you can use it for reference. Although we're gonna do more filtering, I'm gonna show you how to do a lot of filtering in the other sections of this tutorial. Now once you do this, now you need to put the vendors in a context dictionary, otherwise you can't access it on this viewrec.html. So this is how to put it in a context dictionary. Now come down and let me leave these two codes together the same place, so it does the same similar stuff. One is filtering while the other one is just fetching all record. So I'm gonna say context equals, you open a dictionary with a curly brace, you press enter to separate it, and then you open a quotes, and then you call your dictionary whatever you want, but I love making everything simple. I'm gonna call it this same name, this vendor, and then you put this, and then you put this. Now you have to understand this can be anything you want, but this has to be this variable name. So if I'm say I can come here and call this the details if I want, but this must be this name. But it doesn't matter if the two of them are the same name. Now I'm just gonna make it different. So the vendors, I'm just gonna call it the list or whatever, and then let me make it different so you'll understand. You come to this point. After this, your viewrec.html, put a comma, and then you put context. Control C, and then you put context. So you can access this dictionary with this the list. That's what it means. On your HTML template, you can access this dictionary with the list because everything inside the list has been passed into context, which is the name of your dictionary, and then your dictionary variable, and then you've put the context inside here. Now this context can be anything at all. It can be data. So if you call this data, and then this has to be data. If you call this ever, this has to be ever. Now these two names can also be the same thing. It doesn't matter. You can only access this dictionary with this name, and you are able to access this dictionary from this front end because you've passed everything in here as a context dictionary inside is your render method. Now we're done with our backend logic to retrieve all vendors on our front end. We're done with it. Now the next thing we need to do is to go to our view rec and write some HTML codes to display the information how we want it. Now the first thing, I'm just gonna save it. I'm gonna change it back to context, and then I'll change this to context, and then I'm gonna save it. Go to file, save all, and then I'll go to this admin area folder and then viewrec.html. Is inside templates, so I'll go to templates, and then this is admin area, and then this is viewrec.html. Now, like I told you, while we're building the front end for the other pages, not really front end, just the basic, front end that we can use in navigating to vendor registration and all the rest. I told you, if you want to generate your basic HTML boiler template, you just need to press down shift and exclamation sign. You hold down shift and you press exclamation sign, and then you press enter. When it highlights this one, just this one exclamation, you press enter. It will generate your HTML boiler template. If this doesn't work for you, you can generate this boiler template by going to the web, or you can type it. For me, I can type this, because I've been doing this for many years. But if you want to use the exclamation sign option, you can do that. Otherwise, you go to your web browser. So just click on your web browser and open a new tab, and then you type HTML boiler templates, and then once it's open, you can see it. This one, you can use this one, click on it, and then this is it, HTML boiler template. You can click this and copy the entire code and then paste it on your viewrec.html, or you type it out. It's basically head, you open a head, you close a head with a forward slash, you open a body, you close the body with a forward slash, you open HTML first, and then you close it with HTML. The language is English. You can skip this, it doesn't matter. You can skip this document type, it doesn't matter. So now this is our HTML boiler template. The next thing you need to do is to add Bootstrap, and there are different ways that you can configure Bootstrap. You can download the Bootstrap files, or you can also use the CDN. meaning content delivery network. That's what it means. So you can use the CDN or you can, but the easiest way is to use the CDN, but you need to be connected to the internet. Otherwise, most of the time your HTML will not be able to fetch the Bootstrap classes. So now to use Bootstrap, go to your web browser and then type getbootstrap.com. getbootstrap.com. So Bootstrap is a CSS framework that you can use in building your front end rapidly. Now you don't necessarily need to use Bootstrap. There are other CSS frameworks that you can use, Tailwind CSS, and Design, Material UI, and all the rest, for React. But Bootstrap is widely used, and yeah, you can use Bootstrap if you want. You can also write your HTML code from your HTML and CSS from scratch. So if I'm doing a serious project or a big project, I write my HTML and CSS code, or sometimes I use Bootstrap minimally. Now, when you go to your web browser, go to getbootstrap.com. And then this is how to get started. You can include it via package manager, or you can include it via CDN. So yeah, if you want to include it via CDN, this is the link. Just copy this link. This is it. Copy this one, HTTP CDN, and this is the CSS. So you copy Bootstrap CSS. I've copied it now. Click on this icon, and then you go to the head section. This is the head section of your HTML. I'm gonna leave it here. Head section, and then I'll paste it. That's it. This is one, and then you go back to the page, and then you copy this as well, this CDN as well. This is minify.js. This is JavaScript, Bootstrap JavaScript bundle. You copy this as well, and then yeah, this is gonna be just after your body. This is before your body closing tag. Before your body closing tag, you paste it here. Now, the next CDN that we need to add is Font Awesome. Now, Font Awesome will enable us add, some icons, some pre-made icons on our web templates. So what I want to achieve is when you view all record, when this page loads to view all records, I need a trash icon, I need an edit icon, I need an add icon. So when you click on trash icon, it deletes the record from the database. When you click on the edit icon, you can edit the record. When you click on add icon, you can add new vendor by yourself, without the vendor going to the web page to create the account. You can add a new vendor all by yourself. So we need to use Font Awesome, to do that easily. And to add Font Awesome to our HTML, we need to include the CDN. So simply go to your web browser and search for Font Awesome CDN. So if you type Font Awesome CDN on your web browser, you can see this one, https://cdnjs.com, and just click on this one, and then yeah, you will see different versions of Font Awesome. I can just click this, and then select the version I want. So I'm gonna use, I don't want to use 6.5. Let me use 5.0 because they are more stable, or 5.9. So I'm just gonna click this, and then yeah, it has loaded. So you can include any of this CDN. You can copy any of this, copy any of them you want. They are just hosted on different servers. So yeah, click on any one that you want. I'm just gonna go with this. So click on this, and then you go to your HTML page, and then you can paste it inside the head section as well. This is my head opening tag, and this is the head closing tag. This is where we included our Bootstrap CSS. So I'm gonna include font awesome here. Yeah, so I have pasted it. Hold on, let me check. It didn't copy everything, so you need to click on this first one, copy URL. You just click on any of them and then you paste it. So yeah, I'm gonna click on this, and then I'll go to my head section and paste it. This is all we want to do for now. Yeah, okay, so this is JS file, and yeah, you can leave it here if you want, and then go to file, go to save all. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to display a table. So on my HTML here, I'm just gonna type this. Just change this document name to view all vendor. So I've changed my title to view all vendors, and this is wrong. I copied the JS instead of the CSS, so I'm gonna go back. If you see, this ends with .css and some are ending with .js. Target the one that ends with .css, and then you copy this, click on it, and then remove this, paste it. So the center one copies both the style sheet tag. This center one, that's what you copy. It will copy both the style sheet tag, and so this is okay. Now I've changed our vendor name to all vendors. Now go to file, save changes, and so I want to add a table. And we're done with the head section. This is our head section. We've added our CDN for font awesome. We've added for Bootstrap as well. Now we need to work on our body. Now on this body, I need a table, so I'm just gonna put a div. I'm gonna say div, or I'm just gonna say h1. We have from h1 to h5 tag, vendor registration page. Now I'll go to the next section. I want to add a table, so I'm gonna show you how to add a table without writing HTML codes. So go back to your Bootstrap. Remember, we came to getbootstrap.com, and then go back to your Bootstrap, and then go to examples. Go to docs, and then whatever you want. Maybe you want a button, you want a text box, a label, table, or whatever. Just come here and click inside of it and type table. We want a table. So yeah, this is something like this that we want. We want something like this, where we have hash, we have first name, last name, and we're gonna modify all of this to include all the vendor details. So yeah, you can see other tables, but I'm just gonna go with the first one because I want to make it as easy as possible. Since we are not doing front end now, we're focusing on the back end, but because I want to show you how to display record on the front end, that's why we're doing some little front end. So when we're done with the application, we're gonna focus on front end development. Now you want to copy to clipboard. You copy it, that is this table, and then just simply go to your HTML page. This is it. You're gonna paste it here. Now you've pasted it in here. Yeah, this is it. So now this is my table, and then this is the table head. Inside this table head, you need to modify this table head to capture the information that you want. Now I'll go to my models, go to vendor, and then go to models.py, and then you can see we have this field name user, we have user profile is another model, and vendor name, vendor type, vendor license. So I want to display the user, so I'll go to my form, I'll go to my view rec form. So this first one, I'm not gonna put first name or whatever, I'm just gonna put user because I want to display the user. I'll go back to my vendor. The next field I want to display in the vendor is the vendor name. So I'm gonna go back to my HTML and then I'll type vendor name on my table head. I'll go back to my models, the vendor type, I want to capture the vendor type. I'll go back to the HTML, I type vendor type. Yeah, I need more table heads, so just copy all of this, duplicate it, paste it, so we can keep adding. And then I need vendor license is an image. We can't display an image on a table, so I'm gonna leave it for now. Vendors log, we don't need it, we just need vendors log to carry out other functionalities. Then is approved, the approval status. So I'm gonna go back to my view rec, I'm gonna say approval status. Then the next one I want to display is created that, modify that. I want to view all the records, so I'm gonna come here and type joined dates, for example. So this is not a reflection of the model. It's not a reflection of the model. I'm just using words that are similar, that I can use in displaying the table head. Now on my models, modify that. I don't need to see the modify that, I'll just leave it. If you want to display it, is up to you. Now there is another table. This vendor registration is using another model called user and another model called user profile. And while registering this vendor, we combined this vendor registration model with this user model and this user profile model. So some of their information is also on this user and also on this user profile model. So you need to go to your, because these are foreign fields, user is calling from this user model, which is a one-to-one field. So now you go to this user model and this user profile model, they're inside authentication app. So I want to see what is inside in there. I'm gonna go to my authentication app and then I'm gonna go to models.py. Now this user model, I have the first name. So go back to my HTML document and then I'll put, I can start here, I can say first name. You can arrange it the way you like. First name, I'm gonna copy this and paste it. I'm gonna say last name, and then go back to the models, last name, the user profile, date of birth. So you can keep adding more table heads if you want, but I'm gonna stop mine here. I'm gonna pick nationality. Let me add nationality as the last one. Yeah, nationality. So I'll go back to my models because the vendor model, look at this vendor model, I've captured some information from the user profile. I need to capture some information from the user as well, the user model as well. So I'll go back to my authentication, I'll go back to my models. You're gonna see the user model. So this is the username, their email, and role. So I want to display their username and their email as well. So I'll go to my view rec, I'm gonna duplicate this, I'm gonna say email, and then I'm gonna duplicate this, I'm gonna say username. So these are the records I want to display. You can display everything if you want. Yeah. So what I want to do, this is gonna be, the page is gonna display a few information about the vendor. Then when you click, it can display everything, So now I'll go to my vendor model and I'll show you something. Go to views.py and then you see while registering, this is the vendor registration function. While registering, we use user register form, which uses the user model. We use profile form, which uses the user profile model. We use vendor form, which uses the vendor model, this vendor registration model. Now if you go to the form, you'll see all the form that we declared. This is vendor form. It uses the vendor registration model. And then if you go to authentication, for example, you go to forms.py, you see the profile form. It uses the user profile model. And then you go to the user register form. It uses the user model. So all these forms, we imported 2 of these forms and used it inside this vendor registration. Inside this vendor registration, this is it. And then this vendor form is inside this vendor app. So yeah, back to our HTML page. So I have declared some table heads that I want to display. Now table scope, this is the table head. These are the information that are inside the table head. So what you need to do is, if you come to this page, you see it has 1. We have mark, auto, and this, that. We want only 1 record. We want only one. The others we're gonna loop from the database. So what you need to do is to remove this TR. From this TR, look at the first TR. So after my table head, this is my table head and table row. It ends here and the table ends. The table head ends here. Now we have the table body. The table body, we have the first table row. This is the first table row as mdo. This is it. This is the first table row. And then we have the second table row, which starts from here and then ends here. And then we have the last table row, which starts from here and ends here. Now you want to remove this last one, delete it, and you also want to remove this one as well. Delete it, and then inside this table data, we need to duplicate it. So here we have 1 table head, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So I'll go to this my table row. I'll make it up to 10 as well, so it can display 10 information. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need another 4, and I need 1 now. So now let's view this page how it is before we keep modifying it. So I'm gonna go to file and I'll click on save all. So now to view this view all rec.html, what you need to do, go to your terminal and then you need to spin up your server. If your server is still running, you don't need to do this again. So you say python manage.py run server. If you leave it like this, it's gonna run on port 8080, but I have an application running on port 8080 now, so I need to run it on a different server. So I'm gonna say port 80, 83, 82, and then you press enter. So once your server runs, how are you remember this view all rec? This is a function. If you go to admin area, you will see it view, and this is the function. We've not created any link to access it. Now how are you going to access this page? It's very simple. This is the URL. You copy this URL and you go to your web browser. And then you paste it. We've not added the link here. Now when you paste it, now you go to your project level URL. This is my project level URL. I'm gonna collapse all of this. The project level URL is this book and ride. Click on it and then you go to urls.py inside it, And then this is the URL that we configured for our admin area URL. So what you need to copy is this. You copy this admin area, Control C. You go to your URL here, press / admin area, and then you now go to, we say admin area include admin area.urls. Now you go to your admin area app. This is the admin area app. Click to expand it, and then you go to the URL that we configured, and then this is the name. This is the name, view all record. So you click on it, you type / again, and you press enter, and then you press enter. Now this is it. This is our HTML vendor registration page. Now you go to the viewallwork.html. This is what I type, H1 vendor registration page. If you reduce this to maybe something like H3, the font is gonna reduce. So I'm not gonna save it yet. Just gonna show you. This is what we have, vendor registration page. Now I've changed it to H3. I'm gonna go to file and click on save all, and then I'll go back and I refresh my page. You see it's smaller now. Now this is the table that we created: hash, user, vendor name, vendor type, approval status, join date, first name, last name, email, and username. This is more, we have more records, so I'm just gonna take up this. So this is it. I'm gonna take up this. Now to access the vendor record on our HTML, I'll go to this is it, admin area. This is view. This is our context dictionary that we passed in here. You need to access the record, this vendor object.all. You need to access it using this name, the vendors. So just copy this, and then you go to your viewallwork.html. Now this head, we type this head manually. This one, these informations need to go. Now before this table row, you will create a loop so that it will loop the entire database, the vendor registration database. Now come here and press enter. Above this T arrow, you open what is it called, curly brace. You open curly brace like this. You type percentage, and inside this percentage you type for what, you give it any name. You can say for I in this, for I in vendors. You can call this whatever you want, but this has to be that name of the dictionary. So I can say for all vendors, if I want, in vendors. This vendors is what we have here. Views, this is it, the vendors. While this is just a loop for all vendor in vendors. Now in here, you delete this mark. What you need to type now is, you now type this all vendor dot, go to the database. What name did you use in saving the user? Go to the vendor and you go to your models.py. This is it, user. So you say all vendor dot user. It's as simple as that. The next field you want to capture is, here we said vendor name. So you do the same thing. You type this all vendor, go to the next one, delete this auto, open to curly brace, close it to curly brace, and you say all vendor dot, we want to capture their vendor name. So you search for where their vendor name is. I'll go to my vendor app, go to the models.py, vendor name. This is it, vendor name. This is what I use in capturing the vendor name. So you type vendor name, and then you go to your viewrec.html, all vendor.vendor name. It's simple but a little bit tricky. So the next one is vendor type. You come in here, you delete this record. This be a static record, but these are going to be dynamic now because they are fetching from the database. Now open two curly brace, close it to curly brace, and then you say all vendor dot, what is it? Vendor type. We all work, all vendor dot vendor type. And then I'm just gonna copy everything now. Just copy it, delete this mark, paste it. But the next one is gonna be approval status. So you come here, you go to your model. What is the name of the field? This is it, is approved. Is it Boolean, true or false? And so you come here, all vendor dot approval is approved. Now the next one is joined dates. So I'm gonna copy all of this, delete this auto, paste it again, all vendor dot, go to the vendor model, it's created at, copy this created at, that's when they joined, all vendor dot created at. Now the next one I want is first name. So I'm gonna copy this, just copy this, delete this mdo at mdo, paste it, all vendor dot first name. Now so I'll go to my vendor model, go to the vendor model, go to the model. You see there is no first name here. First name is actually inside the user profile, and this user profile is a foreign key or a one-to-one field user profile. So we need to go inside this user profile and check what we stated as a first name. So this user profile is inside our authentication app. This is it, authentication app. Go to models.py, and then this is it, username. Now it's first name that we're looking for, first name. So the first name, this is it, first underscore name. So copy it, go to all vendor, but you can't just say all vendor dot first name. It's not gonna work because this all vendor is retrieving the information from the vendors, and this the vendors is retrieving information directly from vendor registration and not vendor profile, and not the profile. Remember, this first name we got it from this authentication and models first name. So what you need to do, which field, you go to your vendor app, and then you go to the models. Is this user profile that is used to link this user underscore profile is used to link this user profile model. So you need to copy this user profile, you go to your view reg, so you say all vendor dot user profile dot first name. This is how to access it now. Because if you look at this model, I'm gonna explain again. You look at this vendor and you go to the model, you will see we have a field called user profile, which is a models dot one-to-one field user profile. Now to access this any information inside this user profile model, you need to say user profile, user underscore profile, or whatever you call this dot. Now you go to this user profile model and pick the name. Our user profile model is in our authentication app, and models.py. This is user profile model dot first name, and that's exactly the same thing you're gonna do with last name as well. So I'm gonna go here, and then I'll just copy this. So yeah, copy this, and then what we need to fetch again is the last name. So I'm gonna paste it in here, paste here. So all vendor dot user underscore profile dot, go to the authentication app, models.py, and then last name. This is it, last name. So copy this and last name. This is how you access all information in your foreign key model. Now the next one is email. Where is email? Where is email? We'll go back to our vendor app, our model, and you see we don't have email here, but I think the email is on this user model. So I'm just gonna go to authentication app and go to models.py, and then you're gonna see user. This is the email. So it's gonna be now to access the email. You say all vendor dot, go to your vendor model, go to models.py, all vendor dot user dot email. So all vendor dot user dot email. It's as simple as that. And then the username, the last one we need to retrieve is username. Now I'm just gonna copy this, and then you paste this. I copy the table data, copy this, and then you paste it. So it's gonna be all vendor dot what are we trying to get? Username, all vendor dot, this is it, go to vendor model, go to models.py, all vendor dot user, then user, you look for where this model is. The user model is in my authentication and models.py and user, and this is it, email. So all vendor dot user dot email, all vendor dot user dot, what am I doing? Username, not email. I'll check what I use in capturing the username. Models, this is it, username. Copy this username. So this last one is gonna be all vendor dot user dot username. Yeah. The one that linked directly, you can just say all vendor dot user, all vendor dot vendor name. But the one that is calling from a foreign key, you need to state the field that relates to the foreign key, and then you now access the object in it. So yeah, I'm gonna save everything. I don't know where this extra one is coming from. It looks like we've missed something, so I'm just gonna verify. The first one is okay. So the first one is hash, our number. So I'm gonna duplicate this. Duplicate this, paste it, and then I will delete this. So we will use this to count our for loop. We'll use this to count our for loop, and it's gonna display the numbers here. Okay, now that's not all. So yeah, we open the for loop, and then if you open a for loop, you need to close the for loop as well. So you need to come here, you open, it has to be, after your table row, because you opened it before the table row, and then you open one curly brace, and then you type percentage, and then you type end for. Now if there is no record on the database table, you just need to come before the end for, press enter, and then open one curly brace, and then percentage, you type empty space, then you open a p tag. So I'm just gonna open a p tag, p, and then I'm gonna say no record found. So if there is no record, if it's empty, it will display this no record found, so that's it. So Django templating engine allows us to embed Python code inside HTML templates. Now go to file and go to save all, and then you go to your web browser and refresh the page. So this is it. It has fetched all our information from the database. So yeah, this is it. It's easy, you know. Yeah, this is it. So I'm gonna end this lecture here for today, and then on our next lectures I want to add, you know, a tab for edits, add and delete. So we're gonna use font awesome to add those icons. You can also leave it as text, so when you click you can, you know, either edit any record, or you click and delete a record, or you click to add a new record. So this is where we're gonna end our lectures for today. If you like my video, if you enjoy this video and it impacts you, please like the video, share with your family and friends. If you have any question, you know, just drop it on the comment section and I'm gonna respond to you. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, because once I drop a new video, you're gonna receive a notification if you subscribe to the channel. As you know, I'm teaching, you know, a full stack web application development, everything that you need to become a full stack developer, not just Python and Django, because only Python and Django cannot give you a job. But I'm also teaching, you know, Git and version control, which is essential for software development. You know, yeah, I'm teaching HTML, CSS and JavaScript. I'm also teaching React. You know, I'm teaching Docker and Kubernetes, you know, and some other stuff that is gonna be very, very beneficial to you. So I'm gonna see you again in the coming days. Take care of yourself and bye bye.